car and the steel hammer of a handgun slapping the seat of a bullet, that loud crack meant only one thing. Several people stood at the other pumps, oblivious to what was going on. Some were fumbling around, squeegeeing their windows clean, while others pumped fuel, staring blankly at the digits as they clicked away their money. All of them undoubtedly thinking about the gorgeous day it was turning out to be. As Carolyn stopped working, that ear-splitting explosion, a quick pop, shocked her to attention. It was rapid, a snap like a firecracker, or the sound of a brittle piece of wood cracking in half. Realizing it could possibly be a gunshot, Carolyn jumped out of her seat and followed the noise. At the same time Carolyn heard the loud pop and saw the person on the motorcycle, Mark Christensen was wandering around the tire box area of BJ's, a few hundred yards in back of the fuel station area. A few minutes before, Mark had seen someone on a motorcycle inside the parking lot. "He was riding his bike back and forth," Mark said later. Mark had used the pronoun he more as an expression than a literal term because he had no idea, really, which gender the person on the bike was. Not thinking anything of it, Mark went back to his business, but was soon startled by the same loud noise Carolyn had heard. "I thought it was the kids up the hill to my left setting off M80s. So when Mark heard the loud crack, he took off up the steep embankment, hoping to bag the kids and give them a good tongue-lashing. But when he made it around the corner of the building, near the foot of the hill, he noticed there wasn't anyone around. Son of a gun! What was that noise? When Mark got back to the tire box, he heard Carolyn, who had assessed the situation at the pumps and ran back into her kiosk, panicking over the PA system. Then Mark looked toward the fuel pumps and noticed two BJ's managers running toward Carolyn and the pumps. Something had happened. Somebody was hurt. So Mark took off toward them. Coming out of the booth a moment later, Carolyn saw the motorcyclist standing near the driver's side door of the SUV. She stopped by a pillar and stared. Standing, stunned, Carolyn saw a fully clothed person. Let's put it that way, because I could not tell you what he was. I see a person standing there. The person she saw, Carolyn explained, had his or her hands stretched out, pointed at the SUV, much like a cop holding a weapon on someone and saying, "Freeze!" But at that moment, the motorcyclist turned to look at Carolyn. The rider, underneath his or her face shield, looked directly at Carolyn for a brief moment, perhaps sizing her up. Then hopped back on the bike and sped off toward Home Avenue, just to the west of the fuel pumps, and down a short inlet road. Carolyn later described the look the motorcyclist gave her as a chill that went through her. The person had a steely gaze about him or her, one of those rigid, forget-what-you-just-saw looks. It seemed threatening to Carolyn. She was terrified. Within a few seconds, or so it seemed, the person on the motorcycle drove past a small grassy area near the fuel station entrance, stopped momentarily to avoid hitting a car, floored the gas throttle, and, leaving a patch of rubber behind, sped off through a red light, took a sharp left near Success Avenue, jumped over the railroad tracks, and disappeared out of sight. The entire sequence of circumstances took about 90 seconds. Carolyn had already approached the man in the SUV, a big man, she remembered, tall, handsome, white hair. I went over to him, she remembered later in court, and he was sitting there, and his head was rolling back and forth, back and forth. I could see the life going out of him because he was turning completely white. Then Mark approached. He saw a white male with his head down, slumped over inside the same black SUV. I thought he passed out, that there was a fire or something, but when I got in front of the truck, I noticed both windows were busted. Carolyn was shaking so bad after seeing the color flush out of the man's face that when she returned,